Hello, Michael Rosen.
Hello there.
Thank you for joining me. We normally start these off by asking our guests, if you were talking to a child, how would you explain what you do? But I think that's a bit easy for you. So I'll reframe that and say, if you were speaking to a child that perhaps doesn't understand the value of all the things that you do with your writing and your poetry, how would you explain to them why you do what you do and the importance of it?
Difficult question. I guess I do it, I write, and I perform my poems and stories because I like doing it. So it gives me an enormous amount of pleasure and fun. I love doing it. And then also, it helps me to think about who I am because I often write about my childhood and things that happened to me. Then, when you write, it helps you think about it. You can always just sit there thinking like this, and that's fine. But when you write about it, there's a way in which you're sort of sorting it out. Yeah. So if you think of like a great big jumble of stuff on a table, loads of papers and rubbish or something, and then you've got to sort it, and then you lay it all out, and it's all in an order, and you think, I've sorted it. Well, actually, writing is a bit like that. You're sorting out a jumble of thoughts around, like me getting up in the night and wanting chocolate cake. So there's a jumble of thoughts about it. Then when you write it, you've sort of got it in an order. Order means like one thing after another. Yeah. And then if it's in a shape or an order that you like, then you feel a bit good. You go, oh, yes, I've sorted it. So that's the central thing. And then I get a huge amount of pleasure going into schools and festivals and theatres and so on, where I perform this stuff and people find it funny or interesting. And that feels very rewarding. I mean, that's like running a race or singing a song and people liking it. And then you go, oh, that's nice. They liked it. So there's a pleasure in that for me as well.
My 7-year-old nephew walks around the house going, mmm. So
Yeah.
yes, I know at least one person, young person, who likes it. Um, Last time we met, I'm not sure if you remember, but it was during a poetry competition, and this young girl read out her poem talking about being sat in a glass box and being comfortable and sort of numb to watching everyone walk past and not noticing her until one day someone smashed the glass box down and how scary that was. But people started looking at her and she started interacting with them, and how liberating that was. Um, what do you, how do you sort of attribute the importance of literacy tools and providing children with the confidence and the tools to express themselves and communicate with others in getting out of their own glass box and being out in the real world, and the importance education has in that?
Yes. Well, we often think of education as stuff we put in, input, instruction. We've got these in words, haven't we, where you're putting stuff in. But there should be space in education for the child to get stuff out. And we quite often don't think about that. We just think, oh dear, we've got to get through the syllabus that I've got to get into the child. There's the whole curriculum to do to get into the child. And that's fine, that's fine. You know, we have this idea that school is about knowledge, it's about cultural transmission. That's to say all this stuff has got to be passed on. And we have that. It sort of sits on our backs like a great big burden that we're trying to sort of shove onto children. And then we get worried that we're not shoving enough from the pack that's on our backs onto the children. But as I say, you can spin this around and say, well, looking at this child in front of me, looking at these children in front of me, there's all sorts of things that they can discover if they can get stuff out of them about what they think, what they feel, what worries them, what makes them happy, what do they wish for, what do they hope about, what do they dream about, what are they anxious, what makes them angry. All those things, that's a huge amount of stuff, and I have hardly begun there. But every one of us is sitting with all these feelings and experiences swirling around. And education, to my mind, should be a space where that goes on as well. We shouldn't think of it as you could only talk about that stuff when you go home, because you may not be able to talk about it when you go home or a weekend or something, or with your mates. There ought to be a space in education for us to do that. Now, how? Well, we have various forms. We can do it through poems where we write using the word I, meaning it's all about me. But then you can write stories which are about animals or gods and goddesses or fairies, and it can be about the same stuff, but it's hidden in these other creatures, if you like, these other beings. So that's fine. Or you could do a dance, or you could do a painting, or you could make some pottery, and that would express what it is that makes you angry. You could do a great big painting of a fire that seems to be burning up a tree. And at one sense, it's about a fire burning a tree, but at the other one, it might be about someone being angry, because you can make these things symbolic. And that all helps. That all is all a way of expressing ourselves. And out there in the world, in the real world, we treasure these things. We go to stately homes, we go to art galleries, we walk through great squares in Italy, and we see the boy David, and we go, how marvelous this is. And it is, it's incredible. And yet when it comes to schooling, we somehow or other, we quite often think, well, the job of schooling is to just tell children how great the boy David is, without saying, you could create a thing like the boy David. If you think you've got an idea of beauty, well, go on then, create something that's beautiful. And then you could have the experience of creating something beautiful, which will actually be more or less the same experience that Michelangelo had. It's just, it may not come out as the boy David, but it will be you making something beautiful. And that's important.
Okay, we'll have one more question then. We love to ask interesting people like yourself how their educational experience fueled or perhaps failed them. Any particular influences or experiences throughout your upbringing and formative years that really fueled you and made you think, yes, I can do this, I can be this? Or perhaps people or experiences that failed you, where you were neglected or discouraged and you succeeded in spite of that?
Yeah, I was very, very lucky to have great fueling from English teachers, history teachers, geography teachers, French teachers. They gave me a lot of fueling, all of them. Huge encouragement, huge amount of input of exciting things, lots of space to do writing as well. I got at upper secondary school, which was very nice. And also some nice extracurricular stuff of being in plays and sort of social clubs, you know, music and that sort of thing. So all that was very fueling. Failing, well, I mean, I'm no good at maths. Now, should I say those teachers were no good because I failed at maths? I'm not sure. I'm in tension over that. I mean, some part of me psychologically was not ready for the maths that they gave me. I suppose if I was being tough on them or the institution of grammar schools in those days, is to say they didn't know what to do with a person like me who was sort of okay, but I kind of would hit a ceiling very quickly with it. And I'm not sure they knew how, because they were geared up to getting people through exams. And so they were looking at me going, doubt whether he'll get through. And they were right, it was touch and go. But they didn't really know what to do about it. So is that failing? I'm not sure.
Thank you very much, Michael. Great to meet you.
Linky Thinks.